Researchers tell us that all across North America, owning a business is the #1 goal. But what kind of business? The failures of traditional companies have made headlines and cost many their savings and livelihood. Is there a better kind of business? More than a decade ago, Jim Dornan launched Network 21, a specialized development program for the business of the 21st century. Today, that system is used by hundreds of thousands of independent business owners across the world. Dornan is a graduate of Purdue University and an aerospace engineer by profession. He became an entrepreneur in 1970, has written bestsellers on business and personal development, and today owns companies on 6 continents. As technology develops and world and local interests merge, Jim Dornan's articulation of global experience and today's opportunities draws an exciting blueprint for the business innovations of the future. Here is Jim Dornan.
Our business is unique. It's really more of a people business than it is a product business, which may be obvious to those of us that are involved, but not so obvious to people that are looking from the outside. And because it's a people business, it's not a geographically based business, it's a leadership based business. And it grows where there's a leader, where there's somebody that wants to do something, that sees this as a vehicle. And Nancy and I there's nothing we really enjoy more in life these days than go into places, even remote places in the world, where there are really special people that see this business in a way that we think is going to be infectious, contagious. We think it's going to make a positive impact on a lot of people's lives. For the last 15 or 20 years, we've taken some of the experiences that we learned in business, because we started when we were just kids, really, in the business, and in our early 20s. And we ended up kind of exporting our experiences around the world to where, as Dave commented, we do go to places, sometimes small groups, sometimes large groups, sometimes in places where everybody would assume you'd want to go, like London or Paris or Rome or Sydney or someplace like that. But we also go to other unusual places like mainland China and Russia and Indonesia and India and Africa, and places where we find fascinating, really fascinating to me, that people are pretty much the same all over the world, regardless of what the politicians say, regardless of what you see on the news. At the people level, there's not all that much that we can't find in common with each other. Nancy and I do what might look like a very American business model in places like this, where you would expect this would resonate. But we also find it resonates and is accepted and passionately pursued by people in India and Russia and China and all over the world, because people want more if they can have it. There are people, not everybody, but there are people that are willing to work, they're willing to dream, they're willing to listen and learn some things. And where we get our pleasure, for whatever it's worth, is having a little bit of ability to impact positively or to direct people maybe a little bit more efficiently to do some of the things that are possible to do in life and in business. We happen to use a particular business model to do it, but the principles really apply anywhere. Whether someone chooses to build our business, it's an independent business. It's a business that people in this room who have chosen to participate with us own individually. We're owners of our own business. And therefore, whoever came here came voluntarily, came because they were willing to invest some time and money to see if they can't pick up something, learn something, feel something, gain some confidence, gain some belief, gain a better understanding of how to make the business work for you. And a lot of times that just comes from seeing other people like you who are making the business work, or just finding out that there's actually more than just one or two who think it should work. Sometimes you've only ever met one or two, and you're thinking, well, maybe they're nuts. Because we are still pretty much a minority. We're kind of a minority here. Those of us who believe this is a good business opportunity are a minority, because the majority of people have no idea what we do or how we do it. It's not their fault. They just don't know what we do. We have to the outside world, we have one sort of, there's a perception of us in the outside world that is quite different than the reality. And part of the fun is to kind of spend your life almost like knowing a little secret, knowing that, we're aware that it's far different than most people think. And it's fascinating to watch people go through the process of maybe very hesitantly or even resistantly getting exposed to the idea very much determining that they're not going to get got, and then listening to things that people say and going, well, that makes more sense than I thought it would. I didn't expect to hear that. And then they said, well, maybe I could listen to a couple more things. And next thing you know, people find themselves intrigued, fascinated, even sometimes excited about what might be possible. And we always have to laugh a little bit at that moment that must happen when they go back privately at home or in the car and they go, good heavens, can you believe we're actually getting kind of interested in this? How could that have happened? You know, well, it happens because when you get educated and when you get information, when you get facts, sometimes it is pretty surprising what you might be interested in. And, you know, as an engineer, I can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing either, because I always thought I'd be an engineer. Because the point I want to make is things are often not what they appear to be. People who don't yet accept this as a valid or appropriate business for you personally. And there's usually a couple reasons for that, by the way. Either people don't think it's that good of a business, or they don't think it's a business that fits their talents or their circumstances. It's very common. And I would have been one of those people. If someone had described this business generically to me and said, do you think you'd want to do that? I say, absolutely not. Then they say, do you think you could do it? I say, absolutely not. Do you think it's worth doing? Absolutely not. I wouldn't have had any idea that it was worth doing, that I should do it, or that I could do it. And yet I found out I could, and I should, and it was. And so, who knew, you know? A couple of things I'd like to accomplish. We've learned long ago that this isn't for everybody. Most members of my family and Nancy's family never really joined us in the business. And it's okay, you know, my folks were older and they just, you know, they weren't interested in doing anything after we got involved. And my dad asked me for probably the next 20 years. I mean, I remember it was about 15, 20 years ago, I was making more money a month than I'd ever made in my life as an aeronautical engineer. And my dad was still asking me if I missed engineering. I mean, some things you just can't explain really well. I mean, he wasn't unhappy with what we was doing, he just didn't understand it. He didn't understand why I didn't want to just keep being an engineer. And maybe that's okay that he didn't understand it. But we're well aware that not everybody's going to want to do what this business offers. But one of the goals we have is that people learn to respect what the business is so that we can maintain a nice relationship with our friends and family even if they don't choose to do something with us. Now, on the other hand, I'd like to sort of apologize a little bit to those of you that might have been invited or might appear to be being pursued by somebody to join us in this business. We don't mean it the way it appears, okay? We tend to get a little bit over-enthusiastic about trying to encourage people to look at the business because we've had lots of experiences with people that don't think they're interested, and then they come and they look and they go, oh my gosh, I'm more interested than I thought I was going to be. And we have enough of those experiences that we feel almost guilty if we don't try a little bit extra hard to make sure that those people who choose not to participate with us understand what it is they're not participating in. Does that make any sense? I mean, one of the things that kind of keeps us awake at night is that we actually believe we have a way for people to make maybe a few $100s a month, maybe a few $1,000s a month. I mean, Nancy and I have helped hundreds of people make millions of dollars in this business. We know how to help people make money if they want to. We know how to do that. We also know that not everybody's going to do it. But because we know how to do it, we feel like we ought to make sure we give it our best shot to educate people as to what it is we do, what it is they would have to do, what kind of an opportunity is really available, so they don't miss it for what I call the wrong reasons. Now, to me, the wrong reason to miss it is you don't understand it, you don't think it works, or you don't think it's legal, or something crazy like that. That would be the wrong reason. What would be the right reason? You're content. Whatever you're doing now is satisfying to you. You're getting enough recognition, you're getting enough fulfillment, you're getting enough money, you have enough opportunity. Whatever it is you're doing in your life, you're okay, you're content with it, and you don't want to expend any time or any energy to do anything else because you're not looking for anything else. That'd be a good reason to say no. And lots of people are content. But the third reason, quite often, is not only that the people don't think the business is good, sometimes people don't pursue or are even afraid to look because it's kind of like, I could never do anything like that. That's an interesting comment since they never asked what that is, but we hear that a lot. I can never do anything like that. Okay, I agree. What is that? And so we have this bit of a dilemma that we try to work our way through. Where's the balance? Like if someone says, I'm not interested, do we just forget it? Do we just say, okay, they're not interested? Well, then we go to a meeting and we hear stories of person after person after person who wasn't interested that now loves the business. Right? I mean, truthfully, I just thought about that. But I mean, so typical it's this way. You know, us guys, we're much more controlled and protective about what we step into because, you know, most guys, it's not real fun to try something and fail, especially publicly. Girls, for some reason, women, I don't know why it is, but their egos are just not nearly as fragile as us guys. And so you know, like Nancy, she's often wrong, but never in doubt. I mean, the girl, it's kind of like, she's the kind of girl that would say things like this, I'm wrong and you're right. And you scratch your head and you kind of feel like, Anyway, she got this fascinating level of self-confidence. But anyway, Aaron and Alex are a great example of that because Dave and Jules got excited and wanted to build their business. They wanted to bring them onto the team. They had enough intelligence to go ahead and, you know, register as part of the business. But like we often say, registering in the business is only step one. Later on, either tomorrow or a year from now, is you make a separate decision as to whether you want to actually build an asset, actually pursue it for profitability and all that, or whether you just want to remain a shopper and benefit that way. And that went on for months and months and months and months, probably a year or so, and not much was going on. And then later on, something changed, opportunity presented itself, re-looked at the same business, and suddenly it looked intriguing to Aaron, not to Alex yet. But I'm not sure that Alex really asked the questions yet. In fact, I'm not sure that Aaron even knew it was relevant for Alex to be involved. You know, sometimes that's the case. Sometimes the gals just charge along thinking, what? Talk to my husband? Why would I do that? You know, he's busy. He's doing what he does. He's successful at what he does. But this business is very unusually contagious in that there's something about the people. There's something about the opportunity itself that tends to draw ambitious people in once they get the information, and so off we go. And so because we know all these things, this is my little advanced apology, it's one of those things where it's really hard to find the right balance to let people know you really think they ought to take a look, but if they don't, to back off before you kind of make an enemy. And so we try to do that. We try to teach that. We try to teach people not to just accept no because it may be a no based on lack of information, but also not to be pushy or irritating or obnoxious. And let me tell you, sometimes people are pushy, irritating, and obnoxious. But usually with good intention. Usually because they really believe that you're missing something. So let me apologize for all of us who do that. And let me say once again to those of you who are part of our team, sometimes enough's enough. Let it go. Look for somebody else. You know, because this is not a business that is going to be right for everybody. It's a business that's right for the people that are looking for something. And that's what we're all about. And I used to do a little kind of I used to kind of break it down into a few pieces because what I realized a few years ago is a lot of what goes on here is really about changing some paradigms and learning to think a little bit differently. And we get stuck in boxes, I think, in our lives. We get stuck in boxes about what success is and about what we're capable of doing or not doing. And we develop these theories to kind of protect ourselves, I think. I mean, I did it. We develop these theories that, well, I'm an engineer. That means I'm good at math and science and, you know, things like that. So anything that involves business or people, that's not for me, you know, because that's why I went into engineering, so I wouldn't have to deal with people. People look scary and uninteresting to me, and so I'm going to do things with computers and airplanes and stuff like that. But I realized, fortunately, at a fairly early age, I was exposed to some books. I was exposed to some different thinking, and I realized maybe rather than try to look at what my set of talents and circumstances were, maybe I ought to look at what did I want and what might be the best way to get that. And so I began to think a little differently. Unfortunately, again, I was married to Nancy. We've been married a lot of years, more than she allows me to say. But, you know, what happened is, you know, I began to realize as I was building my business very enthusiastically, I began to realize as an engineer, I thought this business had nothing to offer to me, but the more I looked at it, the more it was perfect for me. Because once I realized the number one thing that business had to offer was an opportunity for people to own a business out of their home that could generate between a few hundred and a few $1,000s a month in money, and the potential for what we call residual income. Once I grasped the concept of establishing an asset, of establishing a marketing team that would generate ongoing revenue. Once I realized that I could set up a business in such a way that I could have income that I did not have to show up for work every day for, I got so fascinated because I was in the aerospace industry where you never knew, you know. You never knew whether you were going to get the contract or not get the contract. And I worked at McDonnell Douglas, and I remember when I got out of Purdue University, there were 40,000 employees at McDonnell Douglas, and within 3 years there were 20,000. Now, try to envision the environment for an ambitious, career-oriented young engineer when 20,000 people are getting pink slips in the first 3 years you work there. I mean, they were like making you feel like you should get down on your knees grateful that you just kept your job. Don't talk about promotions. Don't talk about raises. Just talk about, look at this, we're not letting you go. And that was the environment that I worked in. So I didn't hate what I did. I felt so out of control. I felt so vulnerable. I felt like, wow, I got all this education at Purdue, all those irritating classes on aeroelasticity and thermodynamics and advanced calculus and propulsion. I thought to myself, what did I do that for? In fact, I almost made the mistake of spending the next 20, 30 years of my life just because I had to take those classes. I want to make sure there was some reason I took them, But what happened is I realized there was so much I didn't control. There was so much I didn't like. There was so much that I didn't understand when I decided to be an engineer, that when I was faced with a potential that over a 2 or 3 year period I could build up an income equal to my engineering salary, I thought to myself, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I do that? Even if I loved engineering, why wouldn't I want an extra 30, 40, 50,000 or more coming in from my own business? That would be like looking at an opportunity to buy some real estate and say, no thanks, I'm busy, I have a job. What has that got to do with investing in mutual funds or real estate or anything you might do to try to build some financial wealth? Well, I looked at the business as a vehicle to generate some financial independence so that I would have options if I was ever caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Secondly, we were pretty young. We had one child, our daughter Heather, who was just a few months old when we first looked at this idea. And Nancy didn't want to go back to work and give Heather to a babysitter, and yet she was making as much money as I was when she was working as a speech therapist. And so, Nancy says, I think I'll stay home. And I went, it's like, okay, honey, somehow we'll live on half our income. And I thought, this is awful. I can't believe I'm actually making a decision on whether Heather has a full-time mom or not based on the money. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I had just enough money, I didn't have to worry if she went back to work or not. That was all we were looking for. That's all we wanted. That's what got our attention. It's a residual income idea. The business made sense. You kind of change the way you shop. You buy name brand, high quality things at a discounted price. You refer other people to it. And somehow mysteriously this business pays you, bonuses and royalties based on the volume that's generated from what you do. I'm thinking, why would that be any different than if Walmart did that? I mean, what if Walmart came along and said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. If you you get this card for $100, you become a Walmart cosmonaut or something, whatever Fluffy Eagle or something, whatever they have, right? You become a Walmart something. And for that, you get a 10% discount on all your Walmart goods whenever you go to the store, if you can tolerate going to one of those stores. All right, you get the discount. But then if you introduce anybody else to Walmart, then we're going to put a point system in place, kind of like frequent flyer miles, and we'll give you points for everything you buy, and we'll give your referrals points for everything they buy, and then we'll add all these points up, and you can actually make money we'll track all the volume that comes into Walmart forever back to whoever referred them. You know that concept. I'm thinking, can you imagine if someone had a meeting that said, you could do that, and people say, no thanks, I'm too busy. You're too busy to get points for shopping for the same things you don't get points for? You're too busy to tell somebody how they can get points if you can make money doing it and they can benefit as well? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I looked at the concept and it grasped me so much logically that I started talking to engineers. I figured if it's good for this engineer, it'd be good for other engineers. And in those early days, we built our entire business network. Our team was made up of engineers and teachers because that's what we were. So we just talked to other engineers and teachers. Figured if I'm interested in residual income, they're interested in residual income. If I see the logic in shopping a different way and making some money, they might see the logic of shopping a different way and making some money. If I wanted my wife to be able to stay home while we had kids, they might want their wife to stay home while they're having kids. And if I thought someday I might like to have a sense of control over my financial destiny, they might want to have that too. And you know what? We found lots of people that were interested in that. And within about 24 months, I was making almost twice as much money from this little part-time business that we started for $25 than I was as an aeronautical engineer. And so I did something really stupid. At age 25, I quit my job. The reason I say stupid is I didn't need the hours in the day that I was working because my business was running fine part-time. But I just thought, why would I want to go to work every day when I don't need the money? I don't like my job that much. I like my wife and my 2-year-old daughter better. And so we just kind of said, forget it. We'll just be self-employed. And so we weren't looking for lots of money. We were looking for lots of freedom. And maybe Nancy will share some other things along the way in our story, because our story is too long to get into. But it's only relevant because it's where the passion comes from inside. Because we know how easily we could have missed it. We know how if it wasn't for one comment by this person, or maybe one meeting we went to where we heard something that I thought, ooh, I never heard that before. That was intriguing. There was a combination of things that got me thinking. And then we kind of said, well, let's try it. Then we started making some money. And we thought, well, this is fun. We're not only making money, but we're helping other people make money. And then we started making lots of money. And that was a long time ago. And, by the time David was born 27 years ago, we were making, then, 27 years ago, we were making almost 50 times the money I made, before. It was like money was long since not our problem 25 years ago. And we were still 30 years old, and we didn't have any money worries. But what we found was intriguing is that people still wanted to know about it. In fact, we had a lot of experience now. We could actually, like Nancy used to say, we've done everything wrong at least twice just to be sure it was wrong. We were really good at making mistakes, and it was, that didn't work. Let's try it again. That still didn't work. Let's try it again. And whoa, that really, okay, let's mark that one down. That's not going to go into our system for success. System for success is not going to include that strategy. That one doesn't work. And because there's a lot of things that are not obvious about this business. There are a lot of things that I assumed would be a good idea that have turned out not to be good ideas. And there are a lot of things I would not have logically done that turned out to be important. In fact, it's like I play golf, not very well, but I play golf. But a lot of things about swinging a golf club are not obvious. If I did not have a golf teacher, I would not have done what they tell me to do. I wouldn't grip it the way they tell me. I wouldn't have kept my arms straight. I wouldn't have done any of the things they told me. None of those things were obvious to me. And I think in the business, in our business, if we just say, here's a product, here's a business idea, go for it, it doesn't work very well, because the natural things we think we should do tend to lead to dead ends. And the natural things that we don't think about right away, that are like counterintuitive, they tend to create enormous results, because the secret here is not how talented you are. The secret is finding something that you can do that is so simple that if duplicated, it can involve lots of people. And that's how we've built what today is a $6 billion a year enterprise with the average member of our business team responsible for $100 or less per month in business. $100 a month is something you can do asleep. And yet, $100 a month duplicated produces $6 billion a year. 95% of the people just do it part-time. Most people just make a little bit of money. A few people make a whole lot of money. And the big question when we go to recruit people into our business team is, what do you want? And we lead people differently depending on what they want. If they want a little bit of money, we'll give you a certain game plan that doesn't stress too much. It's pretty simple, not much time, effort involved. If you want a lot of money, then we try to approach it a little bit differently. Look at how to build the right foundation. Look at how to get the right education. Look at how to set it up so that it duplicates and becomes much bigger. And that's what we do, and that's what we do through our educational system. So, a couple of quick points. Number one, this is probably not what you think it is if you're new, so I just challenge you or encourage you to dig a little deeper. I think it'd be worth digging. You might still not want to do it, but I think you might want to at least make sure you know what it is you don't want to do. So I would encourage you, it's probably not what you think it is. It's probably going to be a lot different once you study the inside. Number two, as I'm starting to say, it's bigger than you think it is. This is a very big enterprise. We are a true confession here about, for me, we are in an industry that kind of embarrasses me. If you want to describe, you want to tell the truth, we exist in our business world in an industry that is either loosely described as direct sales or direct marketing, or it's described as networking or multi-level marketing. Both of those terms to me describe things I do not want to do, all right? If this is, I think I'm a snob. I don't know what I am, but I hate to even tell you this because it's what I do. But it's not what I do. Because to me, when you describe to anyone like I was as an engineer, a direct sales opportunity, that's Avon, that's Mary Kay, that's fine. That's some candle party or some, what else do they do these days? There's something, right? The ladies are doing something different every 6 months. I mean, it's baskets, it's candles, it's clothing, it's jewelry, it's what? It's something, right? And there was nothing wrong with that. It's a great little transient thing to do, pick up some extra money. When you get sick of that, when you do something else, I'm not interested in that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm just not interested in it. And then you have the so-called multi-level industry. Whoa, I'm really not interested in that. That is the most transient, flaky, controversial blob of temporary companies I think I've ever seen in my life. Since I started looking at this concept of business some 30 years ago, we've seen 5,000 companies claim to use the same system of marketing, none of which are even in business anymore. I've never seen anything like it. There's got to be 50 of them every month that are new. The newest, latest, greatest. They discover some guy with a bone in his nose somewhere that's going to grow hair or make you live longer, or they come up with some wacko juice or something that's going to do some mystery stuff. The science behind it is horrible. In almost every one of these companies, the best thing they got going for them is the brochures and the guy they hired to speak for them. They put on an unbelievably pretty program. They dance around on the stage and tell people they're going to make all this money. And maybe it's true, but the problem is that usually the product is either overhyped and under-researched and under-produced until it's really not that good, or the founders of the company either expand too fast and run out of capital, or they're flaky and end up going to jail. And so I look at this industry and I think, no wonder people resist this business opportunity, because the minute we start talking, they go, oh, I know what this is, no thanks, don't want to do that. You know what? If you're one of those people, we're not going to talk about this out loud, but if you're one of those people, you're probably perfect for this. Because we don't want to do that either. We don't like that. We think this is not a meeting to motivate you and get you all pumped up so you'll buy some things and believe you can make money and try to see how much we can suck out of the crowd before we fall apart and go out of business, and then we start the next deal. I've been doing the same deal for 35 years. We're not jumping from deal to deal. We found one company, one group of products, one marketing system, and one team of leaders, and we ran with it for 30 years. This is not something that's like the other stuff. So I apologize for the fact that we might look like we're just like a lot of other things. I don't think we are. I think the deeper you dig, the more you realize, okay, it may look on the surface the same, but under the surface, there's something about the value system, the educational system, the quality and integrity and history of the leadership, and the product line itself that says we don't sell mystery juice that cures cancer. We don't look for people that want to make $50 for a few months and until they find something else to break the boredom. We actually have a real business with real suppliers, with a real compensation plan, with real manufacturing, with real capitalization, with a real track record. And I think for that reason, if you've always rejected the direct sales side and you've always rejected the multi-level side, I truly hope that you won't, just say, well, it's just another one of those deals. Because it really that flies in the face of the facts that you can easily get. It's a lot bigger than you think. The independent business owners have earned in profits, in commissions, in actual in-your-pocket earnings, $2.4 billion since the year 2000. $2.4 billion. People say, I don't know if there's any money in that. Oh, that's interesting. Well, there's $2.4 billion. That's a lot of money. Now, obviously, a lot of people make only a little bit, and a few people make a lot. The question I would be asking is, how do I be one of the ones that makes a lot if you want to make a lot? In other words, here's the thing that I've learned also. A lot of the people, the outsiders will say, well, look at all those people that don't make very much. Yeah. Well, the implication is that means there's something wrong with the business. No, that's like saying, how many people know there's a lot of money to be made in real estate? Would you agree? A lot of money to be made. It's possible to make a lot of money in real estate, right? Well, the last statistic I saw in the state of California was they issue 400,000 new licenses a year. And only about 4,000 of them earn a full-time living. 400,000 people think they're going to make a lot of money, and only 4,000 do. All right. Then where's the meeting to talk about what's wrong with real estate? Where's the website with real estate haters? They're going to talk about what's wrong with real estate because they found people that bought houses in order to flip them and make money, and they flipped them and lost money. Where's the people that thought they're going to make $250,000 selling real estate, and instead they spent $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000 and never sold a house? What's wrong with real estate? Well, nothing's wrong with real estate. Everybody's got the same houses to sell. It's just some people take it more seriously than others. Some have more talent than others. Who knows what the reason is. But no one ever blames real estate when people fail in real estate. But they sure are quick to blame our business when they find someone who tried it and didn't make any money. Now, I understand that. That's human. That's normal. It's just not accurate. Because I haven't found very many people who actually do the work, follow what we say, that don't make money. I haven't found any, really, depending on how you define do the work. But if I'm coaching somebody, it's like if I was a tennis coach and you want to play tennis. Garrett, you want to play tennis, and I'm an expert tennis player. I'm not, so don't come to me. But if I was, right, I would know for sure a couple of things. Number one, if you really want to play, I can teach you enough that you can enjoy the game. I know I can. I just don't know whether you're going to show up for practice, whether you'll bother. But if you will, I can teach you how to play the game. I can teach you how to ski. I can teach you how to play the piano reasonably well or play golf. If I'm a teacher, I can teach you to do those things. I know what to do. There's a certain set of skills, some information. You need a couple pieces of equipment, a little bit of practice, and I can launch you. Now, I don't know if you're ever going to be a pro. I don't know if you're ever going to, win any tournaments or go to the Olympics, but I can teach you how to do it. And in this business, if someone wants to make a little bit of money, we already know the product's good. We already know the company's good. We've already been doing this for a few decades. We know we can help people make a little bit of money. Can we help you make a lot of money? Well, that's a little different. That depends on how ambitious you are, what your attitude's like, how disciplined you are. There's a few other things that determine the difference between the person that makes $500 a month and $50,000 a month. I don't know how much money it would take to get your attention if you're in this room, but if you're new in this room, we can help people make a few $100s a month in a few months. That's easy. We do that all the time. We can help people make a few $1,000s a month in a reasonably short period of time while they're still maintaining all their other, job and family obligations, of course. We can teach people how to make more. We just don't know which ones want it bad enough, and so that's a little more of an uncertainty. But it's not an uncertainty that it's going to be done. It's not an uncertainty that it's being done. So the infrastructure is there. The products, you don't have to go and find a trinket to sell on eBay. We have the products. We have the website. We have the exclusivities. We have the training programs. But you're in business for yourself. And so what I want to get the message out all throughout Northern California is there is an absolute movement going on, and it's spreading all throughout Southern Northern California, and eventually it's going to go all over the country and all over the world. There's a group of people here that get it. They understand it. They figured out this is bigger than it looks. It's more leading edge. It's more unique. It's not just another deal out there. And so they're kind of saying, you know what? I'll push a little bit with some people I care about, and if I can't get anywhere, they'll move on and find somebody else. We'll find the people that we're looking for. We don't have to hire people. We don't have to build stores. We don't make enemies in small towns when we go in. We're not trying to displace people. But anyway, it's smaller than you think. I read an article just the other day in a newspaper. It said that they just released one of those economic reports for this year. Do you know what the savings rate for America? Did some of you guys read this? The savings rate in America last year was minus 0.1% or minus 1%. I think maybe it was 0.1%. But it was a negative number. Now, what does that mean? That means that overall, all the spending in America was greater than all the savings. We spent more than we earned as a nation last year. That's the first time that's happened. That's the biggest negative since the Depression in 1933. You think everything's going hunky-dory? Well, I think the economy's real good, yeah. Because I'm in control of my own economy. If I don't have enough income, I just add a few people to my team, add a little bit of volume, I get more income. I don't have to ask the boss for a raise. I don't have to go back to school, get more education. I just need to increase my business a little bit. And, I can do that and you can do that. So I say the opportunity is perfect. 1,000 people a day here in North America join this business. Whether you think it's going to work or not, 1,000 people a day are joining these teams. And around the world, through the Network 21 educational system and the independent business owners that are affiliated with the same product line around the world, 10,000 people or more register into this business every single day. The least thing you want to do is waste your time and energy wondering if it's going to work. I mean, put some energy into whether you think you ought to bother with it yourself, but please don't put energy into wondering if it's going to work. It's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise with millions of people involved, and it's been going on for 30 or 40 years, and it's still hardly scratched the surface of the marketplace that's out there. 20 years ago, the number one reason people told me that they didn't think it was a good idea to do what I was doing, you know what the number one objection was 20 years ago? It's too late. It's fascinating to me. But I do understand it, by the way. Please don't take this as arrogance on my part. I understand it because I was a natural-born skeptic. Engineers, it's wired into our DNA to, be a wet blanket on things. I actually took pride in my ability to see what was wrong with anything. I mean, it's just how we think. We had some serious marriage problems in the beginning because Nancy just believed everything was possible, and I thought it was my job to kind of calm down all that naivety and make sure she didn't get too far out ahead of herself. That probably cost me 5 or 10 years of wealth, but if I'd have just listened earlier. But I just was obsessed with, we can't make a mistake. I'll check this out, check that out. What about this? Don't trust those guys. So I do understand it. I don't say it in any judgmental way. I just say, please don't make the dumb mistakes that we did. Get the information quickly. So if you're not going to do it, you cleaned it up and you're out clean. But if you are going to do it, wow, now is better than later. I also wrote down, just in conclusion, it's simpler than you think. It's not that scary. We have a kind of a paint-by-numbers approach. We'll talk a little bit more about that later and in some of our other training materials. You change the way you shop. You refer other people. You educate. You duplicate. It's not that complicated. It's not anything to be afraid of. It's not about selling. You can. It's just not what it's about. It's not about speaking. You can, but it's not what it's about. I also wrote down, just to mess you up a little bit, it's harder than you think. Because I don't want to leave you with the feeling that we're suggesting that if you just say, I'm in, you're suddenly wealthy. No, that would be insulting to suggest that anybody can make a lot of money without some work. There's nothing free here. What I mean by harder than you think is it's not as obvious as you think. There's some things that if you're willing to trust and listen a little bit, there's some things that will help make your success far, far, far more predictable, if not 100% predictable. We do know how to do this. It's no different than learning how to play golf or play the piano. We know how to do this. It's not rocket science. It doesn't require specific skills. It requires an attitude and some desire and a willingness to do some basic things and share it with other people. Not complicated, but not obvious. Therefore, I like to warn people that if you're going to make a lot of money, you're probably going to, yes, you're going to do some work, of course. Who would respect a business where you didn't? But we teach you how to work smart, not hard. Here's a very big point I want to leave you with. You don't make money in this business by how hard you work. You make money in this business by the results you get. We teach people how to get large volumes of business generated on small amounts of hours through duplication. So that's why it gets confusing. So how can I make all that money on just a little bit of part-time effort? Well, because you're paid not for just your efforts. You're paid for the efforts of lots of people. J. Paul Getty said it 20 years ago. He said, I'd rather be paid 1% on the efforts of 100 men than 100% on my own. Almost all wealth is through multiplication and duplication and volume. McDonald's or Starbucks or even Walmart got big on volume, not one 52-story McDonald's somewhere. It's lots of small outlets. Starbucks, I think they're opening 2,000 new Starbucks, I think in North America just this year. They don't grow by having more people come to the same Starbucks. They grow by opening 6 more a block away. We don't grow by teaching people to do thousands of dollars worth of marketing. We grow by getting thousands of people to do a few dollars. But we share the wealth with the people that find the people. Such a simple idea. But I guess just to leave you with part one, here's the trick. It's bigger than you think, yep. It's smaller. And it's harder, and it's easier, it's all that stuff. It's also pretty much only what you think. It's pretty much only what you think. What I mean is, if you think this is good, and if you think you can do it, you're right. You're halfway there. If you think you can't do it, or you think it isn't good, you're also right. I hate that, but it's the way one thing I've learned is I can't fight someone who doesn't want to be changed. They don't want to listen. I can't, and it's okay. I just have to feel when I go to bed at night, I got to feel like I did my best job to give them the facts, to challenge them, to say, look, Just take a look. Just ask the questions. Try the product. Meet the people. Ask the questions. Sort it out. And then if you say, you know what, I think it's good, but I don't want to do it. Fine, that's honest. That's fine. We have no problem with that. But ultimately, you got to decide who you're going to listen to. Maybe not you individually, but, that's the problem in this business. People listen to the wrong people. They listen to people that don't know how it works, but they have an opinion. They listen to sometimes well-intending family and friends. Sometimes that's the worst enemy because they're trying to protect you from being disappointed. So they're going to tell you, whoa, you shouldn't do that. And all I say is, well, yeah, I actually do empathize with that. I mean, Nancy and I were kidding today. This morning we were sitting in the luxury room over there at the Mara, whatever it is. And we said, if Dave and Jules had come to us a year after marriage, and let's say I did something else with my life, and they said, well, we found this great thing, we get the internet and we can get people and sell. And I go, I can just see myself being this yucky, wet blanket, this like, whoa, be careful, who are these people trying to get you to do this? I really do see how that can happen. But here's the great, if our life experience and success and has any value or credibility, the wonderful thing is this may not be right for everybody, but those who put their time and effort into this are not disappointed. They're not led down a path. They do make money. When people work in this business, they get paid. And they get paid just what they were told, and it's incredibly stable and solid. About 90% of the income we earn, and it is a potload of money, is earned from work we did 20 years ago. Hardly anything we have today is based on what we do today. Because in our network are over 1 million people. When 1 million people do $100 a month, that's $100 million a month. That's $1 billion a year we have in sales just because we duplicated ourselves. Not because we sell a lot or work hard or do parties at night No, it's because we have 1 million people that are in business for themselves, all of whom are making something. They're making a little bit of money or a lot of money, but they can quit anytime or they can grow anytime. What happens is a leader sees it that has credibility, who conducts themselves properly and goes out and shares it with other credible people who do the research and they have a reputation to protect. And they say, you know what, we think this is honest and credible and we think people should know about it, and some will do it and some won't, but we just want to make sure when we get all done, people will respect us, and we respect them, whether they joined us or didn't join us. And they're doing it right, and that's why here it is, growing like crazy, right here in this little town where it's been available for 6 or 7 years. It doesn't grow where it's available. It grows where somebody leads it. We've seen the evidence. I've been around the world. I've seen the cardiologist in mainland China living in Inner Mongolia who built a huge business making $100,000, $150,000 US a year. Can you imagine how they're living in China? Bob and his wife have been over to China many times. They got a big group in Dalian up near the Korean border, up in the middle, way northern part of China, way up north of Beijing. People making that kind of money. But I could talk to you about a single woman in Romania that had a big flood, and 80% of the people in her group's houses floated away, and she doesn't even have a car, rides the train, and built a business making 20 times more income than almost anybody in the country would make. I can tell you about a former crown prince of Afghanistan that moved to Turkey and built a huge organization with us in Turkey. He was the crown prince of Afghanistan before the Taliban moved in. And now he went somewhere in Europe, studied, became an engineer, moved to Turkey, works as an engineer now, then got into our business, and now he's got a huge organization, thousands of people. I can talk to you about a bank vice president of Citibank in Indonesia that now has about 300,000 people in his group. I can talk to you about a couple of black PhDs in South Africa, educated at Oxford and Cambridge, and what they're doing to energize the black population in South Africa in our business. Because one of them is the president and the CEO of the largest telecommunications company in South Africa, and the other is a professor and a consultant in business. I can talk to you about a farmer and a nurse in Willows. Same stories. Same stories. Doesn't matter if it's India, Australia, America. You find somebody that wants something. The thing that gets Nancy and I energized every day is not money. Got plenty of that. It's knowing where one person can go. If you find somebody with a dream, you put some tools in their hand, encourage them a little bit, and get them started. What I love is most of them now are doing it faster than we did, better than we did it. They're teaching us stuff. The teacher has become the student. and we keep evolving and learning how to build it faster, bigger, better. The company keeps coming up with better products. And I can't think of anything that I could look anybody in the eye more confidently than this business. I can't think of anything I could look you in the eye more confidently about and say, you really ought to look at this thing, because it's bigger than you think it is. And, it might just be what you're looking for. It might just be what somebody you love and care about is looking for. And if you find the right people, you will not have a money problem. That's how the business works.
This recording is the exclusive property of Network 21. Duplication is strictly prohibited without written permission of Network 21. No one can guarantee that the techniques and approaches suggested in this CD will work for you. We hope, however, that the ideas presented herein will assist you in developing a strong and profitable business.